Hello, Gonky. Perfect timing.
Hello, Mover. How are you?
I'm great.
Hey,
How are
you want me,
you?
Adam?
Yeah, look, we got Luna here too.
Look at that.
Yeah, go ahead. You got this. This is all you.
Kevin.
Hey guys.
Look at that.
On?
Dude.
Nailed the TOT. Yeah.
Almost perfect.
Nailed it. How are you, man?
I'm good, guys. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're a busy man. Chat with Mover and I. And Doug, how are you? Are you back there?
I am. I'm well, thank you.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, dude, look at that poster back there. Top Gun Maverick. You've done some good work.
It's the only cool one I got.
I don't believe that.
But no, I was looking at your website, and so for those that don't know, you do a lot of Hollywood stuff and a lot of Hollywood aviation, and you've done all the movies. Like I looked at
all the good ones.
Yeah,
done some good ones and some bad ones. You know, mix it up. No, it's my job title. I'm an aerial coordinator and motion picture stunt pilot. It's just a very niche business. I'm very lucky to be in it, but I'm also really lucky to be on the show. So thanks for having me, guys. It's Memorial Day, so I do want to give a shout out. I don't know if you guys were planning on doing that, but pretty important day, right? You guys being veterans and all.
Well, thanks. We can Mover just check that off the list.
Yeah, no, I mean you're right. And today is obviously it's the unofficial start to summer, but you know we've lost friends doing this. It's a dangerous business, you know, in aviation especially, but anywhere. And today's the day we remember those that paid the ultimate price for our freedom. So I've lost some friends. Gonky's lost some friends. I'm sure everybody, you know, has lost friends, knows somebody that's lost friends or something. So got to remember why we do this and why we're able to sit here and chat about movies because of people that, you know, paid that ultimate price.
Absolutely. And also, you know, I kind of learned a little bit just by being on the road on Top Gun Maverick. Obviously a big shout out to active duty members as well. And I appreciate you guys, everything you've done, but the spouses and the families, I learned a little bit about that. And man, that's a tough job, holding the family together and, you know, waiting for that phone call. So thanks to all the spouses and military families and supporting the people that are downrange. That's pretty awesome with what they do.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's hard on you know, I didn't have kids when I was active duty, and I just don't know how. It has to be. They're better men than me, men and women.
Yeah, well, and I talked about this, you know, for Memorial Day, those that are left behind are always the ones that bear the heaviest burdens, you know. So you know, the two friends that I lost early in my career both had pregnant wives, you know, so that's a hard thing to deal with. So awesome. Thanks for bringing that up. And thanks for the work you've done, bringing light to it. I mean, you've done most recently the Blue Angels IMAX, which was awesome. Great. We're going to talk about that because you fly helicopters and fixed wing, right? So you kind of jack of all trades, like those of us.
Master of none.
Gonky, if you
like
can't
Uber.
hover, if you can't hover, you probably don't have a lot to talk about in this
It
conversation.
just looks so easy, man. I'm like, I can't.
There's the auto hover button.
That's right. That's right.
Once you discover, yeah. But go ahead, yeah, man. Tell us about how like your career got started and kind of how you got the aviation bug. I'm assuming it's third generation, so there's a lot of.
It's kind of cliche and more simple than you'd think. You know, grandfather flew in the Air National Guard. My dad fell in love with aviation from a young age. He did a lot of really cool aviation stuff, including becoming a motion picture stunt pilot and aerial coordinator by pure chance on the very first original Incredible Hulk. And
Wow.
I was born into the industry and just loved what my dad did. I thought that was so cool. Filmmaking
It is cool.
So the guy's my hero and icon. I mean, I saw him today. Great relation with my dad. He's mostly retired, but that's what I wanted to do. I was like, man, this is awesome. So I'm like 6 years old and I knew exactly where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. The only thing that ever almost derailed me was the 1986 Top Gun movie. I was like, man, I want to fly F-14s. And of course, by the time I would have got in, they would have been gone already. But that was the only thing that almost derailed me. But I stayed the course, and I started dabbling when I was a teenager, just on set with him, driving fuel trucks, washing windshields, cleaning tires. And he knew I wanted to do it. And he said, look, if you ever want to do this one day, no one's going to trust you. You're going to be Kevin LaRosa Jr. They're going to just think you're my son, and you're going to fail. So the guy I look up to basically said, you got to leave, go do everything else, go figure it out. Be your own aviator, go make mistakes. And when you're ready, if you still want to do it, then you come back to it. That's what I did.
That's awesome.
Dude, that's awesome. Your dad gave you a huge bit of wisdom there by telling you to go out and get that experience. Because, I mean, as you already know, there's a lot of ways aviation can hurt you.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Now, did you start fixed wing and then do the helicopter thing? Or like, how did that work? Was your dad doing both as well? Or
he was doing both. He wanted me to start fixed wing. So that was sort of mandated by Pops. He said, start fixed wing. I know you want to do helicopters, but start fixed wing and get a base, a foundation for all the fixed wing stuff, and then transition with helicopters. So that's what I did. And I'm glad I did it that way. It's honestly, I still think today it's a little cheaper to do it that way as well. I could be wrong on that. I'm not a CFI. But it was interesting. I wanted to be an aerial coordinator and stunt pilot, but I didn't want to just be relegated to one platform. I wanted to try to be as versed as possible, be able to fly a lot of different platforms to a really high skill level. So I wanted to do jets, helicopters, airplanes, and I kind of tried to just mix myself in as many trades as I could.
Now, when you say stunt pilot, I mean, so, I think of Art Scholl, right? The Top Gun, going all the way back to Top Gun, where he's filming in the pits, and obviously he had that mishap. But are you mostly doing like filming from the L-39 and filming other aircraft, or sometimes do you go out and actually perform something that's used in the film as kind of like a stunt double in the air? Like,
yeah, exactly right. You're spot on, Mover. So there's two categories. We just make it real easy. There's picture ships and camera ships. Camera ships are anything a camera's attached to. So we're behind the lens making the shots. And the picture ship is what's pictured. It's what you see when you watch the movie or TV show. Both are very fun. The camera movement is really cool. There's a lot of art that goes into that and playing with, light angles and stuff. We always joke from, a lot of my friends are current and retired military. You look like a horrible formation pilot when you fly camera. And usually like military pilots, they want to tuck in and they hang in there and like perfect, but there's nothing happening. It's great for like still images, but it's really interesting to teach yourself to be fluid and keep the light moving around the aircraft, keep the glints going and make energy with your movement. So you end up being like a really bad formation pilot. You're sliding all over the place, but you're watching the aircraft change and the light change and the movement. So that part's fun. The picture ship flying, the stuff that you just talked about on camera, I love the precision in it. So it's kind of fun when you do that. You got to hit marks and try to, if you're flying a helicopter and landing on a train or doing something wild, you got to hit marks perfectly. And I enjoy them both, and they're both really cool.
Do you have to have a background in, I mean, I guess you do, but like how much education did you have to get on cinematography? Like, because you have to know what the good shot's going to be, right? To be able to put the aircraft in that position.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes with experience. When like young aviators who are kind of inspired to do something similar, which I love, I think that's super cool for our industry. I always tell them just to immerse themselves in it. So know what you want to do. Do you want to operate the camera in the aircraft? Then you're going to immerse yourself in the film business, understand light and understand camera and lensing, and the movement of the camera. Do you want to be a camera pilot? Well, now you're going to have to be proficient, and flying needs to be a second nature. So while you're flying, you fly your aircraft first and you're moving that camera around second, but it all has to kind of come second nature and real quick. So you just immerse yourself in it to kind of understand it and start working with people to kind of see how the trade works. And then you just kind of build your own way of doing it, I guess.
Is there like a checkout program for it?
I wish. There's really not. You kind of team up with somebody. I mean, I started a company called X Brand, shameless plug right now, advanced aviation cinematography. And that's kind of our little house for our team member. I got some great team members like Aaron Fitzgerald, the Red Bull pilot. He's part of X Brand.
Oh, awesome.
And it's our jets, it's our helicopters, our picture ships, our Blackhawks, Little Birds, Hueys. It's everything we use within this company. Awesome. And we bring it to the film business worldwide. And we just bought a new gimbal. It's called the Immortal gimbal. It's hoping for 500 knots and 7 Gs. On Top Gun Maverick, I was flying an L-39, which, by the way, if there's any L-39s listening to this, they don't go that fast. I know when I say the gimbal does 350 knots and 3 Gs, they're like, your L-39 doesn't go 350 knots, which is true. They look like they're going fast on the ramp, but they're kind of gutless. But what it gave us in that L-39 was the ability to maneuver. Like, I had amazing situational awareness with the canopy and the wing so far aft that we can kind of start merging and dogfight with guys, and we'd be out of it real quick because they'd run away from you. But that gimbal was 350 knots in 3G. That was my gimbal limitation. The one we just tested is 500 knots in 7G. So we're really up in the bar right now, and that's kind of what the new company's built to do. Just keep the tools going, keep the trade going, bring new people into it, so we can keep, building the teams up and keep this whole trade going.
Kevin, what are you, since the L-39 can't do 500 knots, what are you planning on attaching that camera to?
That's a really good segue, isn't it? That is the problem. On Top Gun Maverick, the airplane exceeded the gimbal's performance.
Right.
As we move forward in the future, the gimbal exceeds the airplane's performance. So we're looking at 4 different platforms right now. I'm one of those people that's like, if I start, talking about it, it'll never happen. So I'm just going to surprise you guys in like 6 months. But I mean, you could figure it out. It needs to be available to the civilian world. It needs to be manageable. We need to be able to get parts and maintain it. And we need to be able to push 500 knots. I know there's like, you can probably count those aircraft on your
Listen,
hand.
If it starts with F and ends in 16, I will send you all the applications.
Don't think that didn't cross my mind. I started seeing the operating costs, and I was like, okay, maybe down the road a little bit.
Jeez.
I think then the airplane would exceed the camera again. You'd be right back to square one.
I know. Well, you're always kind of climbing. That's how it's supposed to be.
Pursuit of excellence. That's all it is. So on that pursuit of excellence, that was a great part about the IMAX movie. Was that mostly from the helicopter and those shots? All
from the helicopter. In our initial meeting, I love that you asked that. We talked about bringing in one of the jets. I operate 2 jets. We operate a Phenom 300, which we used on Maverick as well. That's what we brought to the boat. And a lot of other things, and then the L-39. And what we came down to, and I love this, the way the Blues and the Thunderbirds, give them some love too, there's no negative training. Like, when they practice their routine over and over and over and again. So, right, it's like excellence and repetition, right? Now, if we're going to bring a filming platform to them and we're going to ask for maneuvers that are different, what if we're asked for a take 2? Do the pub twice for us on your way back in. It's like, no, that's not what we do in a show. We don't want our brains to learn that. We want our brains to know exactly what we do every single show. So that was the challenge. How then do we film these guys doing what they normally do without asking for something specific for us? Because that's what we do. Like on Maverick, we're saying, hey, turn here, pull this many Gs straight at the helicopter. I couldn't do that with the Blues. So it was a very cool experience. First time in my life. And Michael Fitzmaurice, my partner, my aerial director of photography, we had to build basically a 43-minute long demo for the helicopter that was a puzzle that fit inside of the Blues demo, because I didn't really have any lateral standoff distance separation. It was just like this blind trust walking in the door, which was really cool coming off Maverick. And, and boss Kesselring, G was just like, Kev, I trust your work. I know who you are, take care of my team. We got a fly routine. I got to be able to trust you. So we walked it in, but it was just 43 minutes of like the most high intense helicopter flying, not only to get the shot, but to get out of the way, right? Like the second we would hit the diamond, there's like solos coming through. And we had a secret weapon. I'm really quick. I got to give him a shout out because I call him my secret weapon. And he doesn't get enough credit. And it was retired Blue Angel, ex-Blue Angel Lance Bensing, call sign Bub. Bub flew in the co-pilot seat in the helicopter. Not a helicopter guy, but he knows exactly where everybody's going to be at every second. Awesome. And he was listening to the scanners, and boss could have called a low show because of a cloud or something coming over. And he would have been instantly like, okay, Chewy's over there. Whiskers is coming around the corner over here. We need to be back here. So I got to give him a lot of credit because he kept us safe.
I was going to ask you what the deconfliction plan was, because coming from the Navy, I know what you're talking about. Like they don't like to make special. It's like if we can incorporate our normal training and then you get whatever it is you need to get, it'll work.
That was it. We never had them do anything outside of normal training. Yeah. So that was pretty wild. And the deconfliction plan basically was the crawl, walk, run mentality, right? I mean, we definitely brought in the tolerance levels after we could show them that it could work. Once we knew the deconfliction plan could work, when we briefed them, we would say, look, when you're doing this maneuver, you're going to see a flash over here. It's going to be the helicopter, and we got you. We own the miss. And we walked it in, and the team trusted us, and they were all professionals. And, I think they all enjoyed it too. They understood the gravity. There was two things with that. That foundation's been going a long time. Had we created a hazard or an accident, that could change, the Blue Angels for the course of the rest of history. That would have been absolutely miserable and horrible. So there's the gravity of that. There's also the gravity of telling the right story, because what they do is pretty amazing. So we wanted to make sure we did that justice, and at the same time, not ruin anything.
Was there I know you're the coordinator, but was there somebody on the ground as kind of like the God's eye big picture sanity check of what's going on? Like kind of like they have it in an air show.
IMAX, it was the flight doc.
Yeah, it was Doc.
But Doc was smart on the Blue Angel stuff. I mean, did you educate her on the routine that you developed?
No. And in fact, Comcart, who we were talking to all the time, I'm sure Doc was down there watching. Their job is not to say anything unless they have to, right? Like throwing something on the radio when there's a maneuver going on for the team could be really distracting. So unless there was a legit safety going on, usually Comcart's not saying much of anything. The safety person, I had no ground safety on the civilian side. It was Bub. It was the gentleman sitting next to me. And I think that's what gave the Blue Angels trust, right? I mean, here's Kevin LaRosa. I'm a civilian being entrusted with no standoff distance. And I think the reason I might have gotten that is probably because of the trust they had with Bub. They knew Bub, as an ex-Blue Angel, wasn't going to let a civilian helicopter be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that assurance kind of gave us a lot of freedom.
But there were three people in that helicopter, right? So you had your camera operator, or were you running the camera too?
Oh man, I can't run any camera. People call me a cinematographer all the time. I'm like, I'm not a cinematographer. I'll put you in the right spot though. Yeah.
So you had somebody else running the camera with him in the front. So that's kind of a crowded cockpit there.
It's not bad. It's usually when we're doing close quarter stuff with the helicopter, I like to take the left front seat out, like the co-pilot seat, if you will. We take the dual controls out, we take the co-pilot seat out, and then I have like a really good field of view. With the Blues, we needed Bub up front. Not only that, if you watch any of the behind the scenes videos, you see 3 scanners in front of him. I owe you guys a beer for not putting my phone on silent. He has 3 scanners in front of him, and it's totally cool. He's listening to the solos, he's listening to the diamond, and he's listening to Comcart. And he looks like a mad magician over there. Like if you watch any of the footage, he's just monitoring like different volumes and like, trying to figure out what's going on, hearing banter from the solos back to the diamond, which is pretty fun to listen to. So yeah, it's cool.
So I want to geek out as a helicopter guy on the safety aspect, because some of those shots, especially like the Blue Angel going vertical, are you in an out of ground effect hover? And are you worried about, just because helicopter guys, you start saying OGE, you're like, man, I hope that, single engine helicopter, I hope this works out. I mean, how are you safety wise with the limits of what a helicopter can do in those situations?
You're always thinking of it, right? And that's kind of what we're supposed to do. Are there times where we're outside the height velocity diagram? Absolutely. So we're taking a little bit of risk there. We try to minimize our risk, though, I would say. If we don't need to be in a place where that motor could pop or make a sound, we're trying to be in a position where we can be higher, or we have energy, forward airspeed, so that I could kind of pop, flare, and give myself some options. The one good thing is mainly we were at Pensacola and we own the whole airport. Like, they shut the airport down. We go anywhere we want. When there's runways and taxiways, we would have called to knock it off if I had, a flame out. The one that was a little harder is when we did Fleet Week at San Francisco, and there's nothing below you but boats and water and sharks. So, I mean, that's not a great place for a single engine helicopter. But usually what I always say, there's kind of like an aerial coordinator creed, if you will, that I developed. And it's, an aerial coordinator's job is to take the producer's dreams and wishes, and we put that get together in like a logical way. But our job is to accomplish those shots to the highest level of creative and dynamic, motion that we can. And at the same time, de-risk every shot to the max extent possible without compromising safety. And if it can't be done, then we figure out a better way to do it, or we say no. So when we do these type of things, the word stunt, going back to that and everything you just said, I kind of hate that word. That comes to us because we're Screen Actors Guild. We're in that same union as stuntmen. We're considered stunt pilots. But as far as what we do, Mover, it is so rehearsed and so methodical and so well thought out. It is not cranking and banking and ripping on helicopters. It is like absolutely rehearsed and safety briefed and contingency plans. So stunt's not a really great word, I think, for what I do, but it just kind of came with the Hollywood thing.
Just like the blues, right?
Yeah. Well, speaking of stunts, I mean, the documentary Airwolf, they actually did stunts as their day job. Do you have a helicopter hidden in the mountains somewhere that you fly?
It doesn't have afterburner.
No, man.
Doesn't have.
Little funny story. My dad was one of the Airwolf pilots.
What?
Oh, dude.
Oh, that's awesome.
Somebody gave $5 to the Airwolf fund. So if we can do that, if that's what we can kick off today.
Mover's saving his money to get the helicopter. So this is all going to tie in together.
Yeah. We got to talk about this a little bit. It's a family tradition. I'd love to see that happen again. No, I guess I used to fly in Airwolf when I was a baby.
What?
I just way before my time. I was born too late.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, this is an Easter egg. I didn't even know this. Tell me more.
We still got Airwolf parts like running around. My dad has like Airwolf stuff at his house. Years ago, he had like the side panels that go on the 222. Because when the show was over, there was actually 3 Airwolves. And he took it over, I think, in 86. Prior to that, 2 Airwolves had actually crashed. Because it was a TV series that was super successful. Mm-hmm. So after the show was over, canceled, whatever happened to it, that 222 got put back into a normal configuration, all the fiberglass stuff removed, and it got sold to Germany and became like a charter helicopter out there. And I don't think it exists today. No, I think all the real Airwolves are gone. Yeah. But those side panels my dad had for years, and he always tells this funny story, is that he listed them for sale because it was like junk in the back of his hangar, and it was always in the way. And some dude like saw the ad and bought them for like nothing. And then my dad said he saw them on like eBay one day, and they went for like a ridiculous amount of money. He didn't realize it had such a big following. Pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Gonky and I watched that on the way back from COVID flag, Key West. One of the worst debts we've ever been on.
We watched like the entire series.
I'm committed to playing Mover Fellow Hawk. So whenever we reboot this thing, I'm ready.
I'm in.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, well, going back to more current times, Top Gun Maverick, because everybody's going to want to talk about this. For the modern era, right? I mean, it is the pinnacle. Devotion's good too. We'll talk about that too. But I mean, it rejuvenated everybody's like love of military aviation and post-COVID and all that stuff. What was it like, planning this when so many sequels, everybody's like, it can't work. It can't work. I mean, working with Tom Cruise, who's a pilot, who is probably hands-on with some of this stuff. Like, talk about that kind of stuff.
I guess I'll tell you really quick how my involvement on the movie was a Hail Mary. I was flying camera jets for a long time, like a Lear 25, which is a really cool Lear jet. with a vector vision in it. So pretty antiquated technology, similar to what Clay Lacy used to have. And I did a lot of DoD stuff with that. So I became kind of the camera jet guy. I started flying that at 21. And then I was on set with Tom on like a Jack Reacher movie, and he'd known my dad and I a little bit from movie industry, and he knew I was a jet. We're walking back to base camp from a shot, and he goes, Kev, one day we're going to make Top Gun, 2. He didn't know it was going to be called Top Gun Maverick. And he said, when we make it, we need better technology, and it's all got to be real. I want it all to be real. And then, squirrel, somebody called him and he's gone. And it was like one of those nuclear explosions went off in my head. And I was like, oh my God, did Pete Maverick Mitchell just like tell me we're going to make this movie one day again? And like from that moment, I never stopped. Like I was like making, drawings of these jets I thought we could put together and build and what was available. And everything just happened for a reason. The shot over came out. It's a helicopter gimbal. We modded it for jets. I acquired one with a partner of mine, and I found Randy Howell with the Patriot Jet team who had extra L-39s and made a deal with him and said I would try to bring in work, and I'd like to be type rated in the airplane to fly it. And for some reason he believed me and let me do it. And all these people trusted me, and I made this jet called the Cinejet, and I didn't know I was going to get any work for it. In fact, the first customer was Delta Airlines to use it, which was great because I wanted to make sure it worked good and we didn't know it was going to work. And it was super successful on that shoot. And I get a call one Sunday from this guy named Tommy Harper, who at the time was the producer of the movie. And he goes, hey, Kev, we heard you made, the Cinejet, and we're wondering if you wanted to work on Top Gun too. We're making this movie. We'd like you to do the jet work. And I was just like, yeah. I mean, I'll check my schedule and I'll make sure the airplane's available. And dude, I probably woke up every neighbor, just like that awesome moment. So that was a Hail Mary. I got lucky to be on the movie. And then my role just expanded from there, became the aerial coordinator for the whole thing, flew all the camera, helicopter, camera jet stuff. My naval counterpart, Brian Ferguson, call sign Ferg, worked with him for a year on the movie. So it was incredible. And to answer your question, I kind of went off on a tangent. Tom brought us in one day. We were at Naval Air Station Lemoore. Very early. Yeah. More guy.
Yeah. West Coast, Best Coast, baby.
After going to all the bases, Lemoore's the bottom of my list. Like it's
I know
the last one I'd want to go.
I know.
Like Whitney, San Diego.
Yeah. Secrets out.
Yeah. Anyway, we were gathered in a room and he kind of gave a little like pep talk to the crew when we were getting started. And he's like, guys, we're at a disadvantage. We're making a sequel, and everything we do on this movie has to be perfect. Literally has to be perfect. And if it's not, we're going to keep going until it is. And like you knew right out of the gate, it was going to be like, all right, we're going hard. Like we have to make this movie as good as it can be. And we did that very thing. We would reshoot things and we go shoot something and watch air to air footage and be like, yeah, that's awesome. We can do it better. Now we know we can do this. And we would go do it again. And no movie does that. You're usually constrained by budgets, and the producers are like, no, we're done. You're off the clock. We're going to take that. But there was no way.
Kevin, didn't the Navy though did dedicate some resources for that movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they paid dearly, by the way. I don't know if that's the government accountability office or what, but there was nothing we didn't have to pay for. If we had to turn the boat, we'd have to pay for that. So I'm like contracted to have to remind people that. But we would get assets, and a lot of time, these are backup assets. The Navy has a full-time job to do, and they were doing a full-time job at that time. So, Ferg did an amazing job. He'd have a whole calendar laid out and support pilots, support crew, different F-18s, and all of a sudden, Tom and the director would be like, you know what, we need to shoot that tomorrow because the light looks better. And you'd see Ferg kind of look over and he'd plug something into the side of his computer and start like redirecting satellites, and somehow things would show up. He'd like make it work. But that's we call that, the creative freedom, moments of opportunity. If you go in too regimented, it's really hard to come out with a really good product. We kind of talk about that stuff all the time. We brief to the nth degree. We know what we want to do, but unless you're prepared for something you didn't prepare for, contingency plan, you're not going to be as successful. And that happens all the time when we're in the air. It's like we're filming here and then there's like a ray of light right there. And we're like, guys, let's go there. That looks awesome. Right. So anyway.
Was it something you had to, sorry, go ahead. Was it something you had to tighten down? I mean, because so this is new technology, right? So you're probably thinking we can be more realistic, have jets farther apart. Was it something you had to get closer and closer until you're like, that's perfect? Or did you already kind of know you had to start out closer?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything we do, I always brief that crawl, walk, run. We don't go just diving into canyons at 300 knots. It's Walleye, the Blue Angel that came in to do a lot of our low level stuff, and that famous Tom Cruise hell run through Toyabe Canyon at Fallon. That was done, at 300 knots and 500 feet, and then 350 at 400 feet. He probably ran that thing 30 or 40 times before we actually got that take. And on that last take, he was in there, but he knew every rock and tree by heart. So I'm the same way, Mover. I mean, every time we work with the guys, it's like, until you build that trust with whatever pilot you're flying with, that is something different. I do want to mention that. I know on the first Top Gun, the 1986 Top Gun, the movie was kind of mostly flown by a couple of naval aviators and some guys that did some, help on it with coordinating it. This one was a little different. Ferg and Chris Papiano, call sign Pops, I think he was the CO for Top Gun up there when we were working. They really did a good job opening this up. We had JOs flying for us out of 122, out of Lemoore. We had different squadrons working on Top Gun. We had a Growler squadron helping us up in Whidbey. We had, bros, Top Gun guys flying us. We had instructors flying us. We brought in a lot of different pilots. Now that's a bit of a disadvantage when you're talking to me, because you start building the trust with somebody, and now you're going out and we know each other. I know exactly how he's going to fly. He trusts me. When you get a new pilot, you're kind of starting from ground zero. The one thing I'll say though is they were all pretty awesome. And as soon as we flew together once or twice, it's probably similar to you guys. You're like, okay, I know this guy. I get how he flies, how he talks. So I don't think we ever really had to back off much of anything. It was more just we had the proper buildup for every sequence. And we never really got anything on first. We got some first takers. But it was always like, if we were doing a stunt, whatever that might have been, we built into that until it was extreme as it can be. And we weren't going to die. We weren't going to break anything. There was a little bit of safety factor, and that was it. That was the take. That's the one in the movie.
So did you guys primarily operate out of Lemoore and then just like fly over to 2508 and then fly up to Fallon? Or did you guys actually operate out of Top Gun up in Fallon?
That's kind of a cool question. We were all the way out of like North Island all the way to Whidbey.
Oh, wow.
We went where the story took us. For our initial, nav hops and training sorties and stuff, we started at Lemoore. A lot of the movie was filmed down in San Diego, North Island. Tons of the movie was out of Fallon, and the final act was out of Whidbey. You won't see any Whidbey in the movie, but what you see is the Pacific Northwest, the Cascade Range, the $1 Million Run, if you will. And Whidbey was our base for that. So kind of a funny story. When the movie started, we didn't have our clearance to get the L-39 on Fallon yet. There's a lot of paperwork. They're called DD forms, a lot of politics to get all that done, paperwork. And we were hustling. We were trying to get it done. It was time to get started. We needed to get started. So we came up with a plan that I would operate out of this little airport that was south of Fallon. Where do they do the F-117 testing and stuff? When I'm just forgetting.
Tonopah test ray. Yeah.
But I didn't get to go to like the proper DOD Tonopah. There's like another civilian Tonopah that's like a runway and an old hangar in the middle of nowhere that they did some cool stuff too.
Yeah.
And we stayed in the weirdest place. There's like a clown motel and an old graveyard. We were laughing. We're taking pictures. We're working on Maverick, but we can't go to the Navy base yet. So we have to stay here, which gives me enough fuel range to meet up with the F-18s out over the range. So that was pretty funny. Some cool pictures.
That's par for the course for, standard military operators.
Yeah.
Is that where Maverick drove his motorcycle onto the?
No, tell you what, I know you guys know this place, just a little fun for people that are listening. So it's close to 2508, and you saw the hangar. Where's hangar lived? Do you know what airport that was?
No, but ever since then, I want an Airstream.
It's China Lake.
51.
It's close to China Lake. It's in Inyokurn, California, civilian base.
Yeah.
And that is an old, legit World War II hangar. There's cool pictures of it. And they transformed it to be Mav's garage hangar house thing. which was honestly really fun to walk through. There was a lot of nights at the end of the day where everybody was gone and we would just walk through Mav's set hangar, and all that was there. The bike was in there. All the bikes were hanging, all the memorabilia, pictures of Goose. You'd get like goosebumps walking through there. It was really cool. Oh yeah.
I see what you did there. Yeah. I see what you did there. Was the P-51 easier to shoot for those scenes? Just based on speed differentials and stuff?
Yes and no. There was a lot of stress with that. I mean, that was probably the single biggest aviation insurance policy ever taken out.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Right? Because you're talking like a legit P-51D Mustang. That's immaculate, by the way, flown by Tom himself, who flies it expertly, and Jennifer Connelly in the backseat. So pretty awesome. And then, you know, we're in the 2508 complex. I guess we're in the MOA. Is it the Isabella MOA? I think that's just on the south side of the Sierras there. So we're ripping through the MOA, like, and all those cool rocks right there, just to the west side of China Lake. And, you know, we're chasing him. He's chasing me in the L-39. I'm like, what are we doing? This is insane. But it looks, it's gorgeous, right? And we did it a lot of times. And to Tom's credit, you know, we had very specific lines. I'd scouted it all. We knew where there wasn't wires. We knew where we could fly. We knew it all like the back of our hand. We put a lot of work into it. And when we shot it, it was gorgeous. It looks just like that at the end of the movie. Here's a cool little fun fact a lot of people don't know. End of the movie, this roll, you know, there's a roll. Tom rolls around the sunball. Love that shot. Almost as cool as the F-14s in the end of the 86 film. That was a really hard shot to get. It's me in the helicopter, and the Mustang has to do this perfect roll around the sun, which looks different to him because I'm looking through the lens in the helicopter. And then we had this really cool idea that I told Joe Kaczynski, the director. I said, you know what? Why don't we have the Mustang continue a right-hand orbit? We'll hold on this beautiful sunset over the Sierra Mountain Range, and then have that thing just rip through frame and then go to black. And like, it'll just be, you know, the Mustang engine and one last little flyby and Maverick. And that's exactly what's in the movie. And people don't think that's real. They think the Mustang maybe is real as it goes out. And then this thing that just flashed by was fake or something. That is absolutely a one take deal. And it looks awesome. And it's like the perfect way to end the movie.
Wow.
Yes. Speaking of real,
sorry, go ahead, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, speaking of real, the L-39 cannot go Mach 10. And so I don't know how you were chasing the Dark Star.
They used a drone. Yeah. It was a drone.
Yeah, right. I'll give you guys a cool analogy. People ask me this all the time, and here's what I always tell them. We learned how to use the camera platforms properly on Maverick. And I say learn because there's 800 hours of aerial content on that movie, and we use like 1% of it in the movie. It took a little bit to understand how to move the camera with two jets. But if you take an SR-71 at max power, full speed, and you put a camera gimbal on it, and then you use that SR-71 to film another SR-71, it is going to be the most boring, floaty footage ever. They're just sitting there. They're doing Mach 2, 8, or 3 or whatever. But unless you have some sort of relative motion, clouds, ground, smoke, anything to show that the airplane's going Mach 3, it's sitting there in frame. Well, if you take that logic and you put it into the L-39, because we had no other choice, and you figure out, well, it's overtakes. It's a differential of speed. If we set up a overtake maneuver and we film the overtake, all of a sudden the background looks like it's going Mach 1. The F-18 is probably doing 300 or 400 knots. And if I'm doing 250, that overtake looks insane. So when you watch Maverick, if there's a sense of speed, it's either, it's either the L-39 with a huge overtake or it's the helicopter with a huge overtake. And that's how we get speed. The only time in the movie that you want to be in formation, because it's usually boring, is if you're telling a story point. So if you watch the movie, anytime you're seeing the actors in the airplane, or there's conversation, or there's a flight of two, that's the only time we're really ever formed up, because we're just trying to show the audience where you are in space. That's another hard battle, is like, you guys might understand if you're listening to the comms and you know they're in the range, you kind of understand, you're going to build a mental picture for maybe what's going on. But the general public, no clue, right? So you have to use the aerials to help kind of tell the story about where everybody is and what's going on, or else none of that makes sense.
So in the Blue Angels, when you were filming that, you were kind of in and around their normal demo. But when you did Maverick and you're flying with different pilots on different days, I'm curious, who, like, were you guys essentially the flight lead, or, you know, I guess who was the lead?
Depends on the shot. On a lot of times we would lead exchange right in the middle of the shot. You know, if
Okay.
we're trying to do a big overtake and we're doing an overtake in a canyon, that got interesting, but it worked so well. Like I'd go ripping into a canyon. I say ripping. So it, you know, scorching L39 speeds of 300 knots, which was after I dove in.
Mach 0.5. Go on.
There you go. we would set a rhino up that I'd be lead, right? And I'd hold one side of that canyon and they would come smashing in behind me. And it's basically a lead swap. They're like, all right, we got you, Tally. I'd call action and they'd roll in and they'd go, all right, overtaken in 3, 2, 1. And I'd see him pop out the nose and I'd go, you got the lead. And so that simple maneuver, it sounds simple, but the camera operator sitting in the back ejection seat in the L39, who's like in a cocoon. I don't know how he doesn't get sick. That's Michael. He's on the sticks and he's watching this L39 come down this canyon and then rip past us. And that creates tons of movement. So that's how we got the energy. To answer your question, it's about mix. Sometimes I was flying lead. Sometimes they were flying lead. You know, for the pop maneuvers, when they're doing the training exercises and they're trying to pop and then throw the bomb on target, a lot of that stuff was like a look back, like the L39 would be flying and I'd stick them under like a refueling position, like a 6 o'clock, like a slot. And the only reason it looked fast is I'm 103 N1. I'm like max power in the L39, 275 knots. But because we're so low, 275 knots when you're, 30 feet above the ground looks like you're screaming. It's like what I just said before. That's the relative, whatever you can put on the ground to give you some sort of speed. It's just a cheat.
Yeah, kind of like Mover and I have taken backseaters like we'll go supersonic, and if you're at altitude, it's like well, here we are.
Oh yeah, there's no golden light, there's no angel sing, nothing happens.
Yeah, there's nothing flying by.
You go to Plaid. No, sometimes you go to Plaid. But so Kevin, was there anything that you guys like? I know because you said there's a whole bunch of shots, right? And if you can't answer this, then that's cool. But like, was there anything that you looked at and you're like, this looks like a great idea? And you get out there and you're like, oh God, it just doesn't look right. Like BFM, high aspect BFM. Yeah. Did you have a lot of shots where you thought it was going to look great and then you get to you're like, Absolutely. That's too far apart? True
BFM looked boring on camera. It was hard to get the L39 in a place to make the BFM look good. And as I learned, because I'm a civilian and you guys know this all the well, they're trying to get angles on everybody. And it starts getting really slow as guys are trying to dive in behind the other guy. It doesn't look very sporty. There's not a lot of vapors. It looks cool when you're sitting in those jets, but from the camera angle, there's not a ton of energy to it at least at the end of the fight. The initial merges that have, the big closure and stuff, that's cool. So we just had to get different ideas and different ways to do it. We would go back and we would sit in our debriefing room with everybody, with Tom and the director, and we would watch, like, no joke, 2 hours of footage out of hard mounted cameras, out of the L39, out of the helicopter, out of ground cameras. And we would learn, we would mark stuff and go, that was cool. This is boring. That's floaty. This is boring. What we ended up doing and learning for a lot of the BFM stuff, it was moments. And that's kind of what was cool. We stopped trying to make these long drawn out takes of a merge or like someone trying to get an angle on somebody. And we just got moments of an aircraft maneuvering. And we learned little things like they were calling, I know it's slang, but like something the F-18 did of like a hypermech, like this rapid thing they would do to the controls and the airplane's like, okay, you want to go that way now. Here's how I'm going to go that way. But the airplane does some really cool things and the control surfaces go all over the place and the airplane squats and digs in. And if I got close to that and countered it, you would get this really cool moment on camera. So it was literally kind of learning as we went of what would look good on camera.
Did you get a ride in a Hornet?
It was after the movie was all done. We were so dug in, like we were so buried. It was studying, learning, planning, briefing, logistics, fly, do it all over again, rinse, repeat twice a day. But after the movie was all done, I got invited back and I got a 16 ride in the morning, which is a Navy 16V, super fun. Ooh. And then I flew an 18 in the afternoon. So that was, nice. I think, the Navy's way of thanking me. That was pretty special.
Yeah, I would think that would give you a really good understanding of like what, how hard.
Would have been a really good idea is maybe we should have done that before we made the movie.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, man, if you could show them, oh, this is how hard they can turn. This is the angles they can create. Like,
it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
It was really fun though. I got to be part of the little 9G club, for civilian 9G club, which was fun. I think they were trying to put me to sleep. And there's footage that no one's ever allowed to see, by the way.
Did you go to the centrifuge in Lemoore?
No,
they just threw you in.
Threw me in.
Typical backseat riders to the Fuge. Nobody does that.
I don't know. I didn't know, man.
Nobody
Maybe give
does
him the
that,
full meal
Gonky.
deal treatment. Get him a trap too while we're at it.
Yeah,
it was a really cool deal in the afternoon. There was like a newish rhino on the ramp. They're like, oh, you get to fly in one of our newer birds tonight. And then that airplane broke. And then they're like, all right, well, you're going to fly in one of the older ones now that's available. And it turned out it was a MAV jet. So the jet I actually flew in was a MAV jet. And then that jet, I think, oh no, that's the 2-seater. A single seater, I just got to tell you guys, ended up becoming a Blue Angel. It's the very jet that was like a MAV jet. Our single seat Echo model is one of the Blue Angel jets now.
So it was one of the older jets.
Is an older jet. Yeah, I guess they always get the older birds.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Dude.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, I got to ask you, while you were making Maverick, did you ever run into, I think he's Admiral now, Caesar?
I don't recognize him.
I saw him in the credits. He was one of my old skippers. Great dude. I just had to ask.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I might have. So sorry.
He's one of the consultants, I think. But I just had
nice.
That's awesome. So do you have like a whole terabytes or a couple terabytes worth of footage that was never used in Top Gun Maverick for the
that is
K2 cut
buried 500 feet underground in some Paramount vault. And I wish I did. I got a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff, but Joe Kaczynski came out and was like, we literally have 800 hours of aerials. And there's tons of good stuff. There's stuff that we shot where I'm like, how did you not use that? But they were trying to make a movie and they did a good job making sure it wasn't too long and picking all the right stuff. I will tell you this, Paramount, or our production company, our side of Paramount that did Maverick, we were really good at making these different pods, these different units, if you will, that shot the movie simultaneously, better than I've ever seen a production company do this. On any given day, we would go into a briefing room and Ferg and I would usually hand it over creatively. We would talk creative. Then we would figure out how we're going to do it logistically, what jets you're flying in, where you're launching, where you're recovering from, who's flying with who. And then we would do safety every day. We'd have 2 missions a day. At any given day, we would have jets flying internal cameras with actors. We'd have jets running around with external camera mounts for sequences. We'd have jets that I was either taking out with the helicopter or the L-39 for air-to-air. And then we would have ground units that were filming, airplanes from different mountaintops that we would strategically pluck them onto. And we would do all this almost simultaneously every day. And that's why we ended up with so much footage, but that's also why we ended up with so much good footage. We had a certain amount of time to make the movie in, and there was an awful lot of footage that Joe, our director, and Tom wanted to get. And that's how we did it. And that's super rare to see, but it worked out really well.
What was the scariest moment in the entire process that you're like, oh, we got lucky there?
I think we had this isn't live, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, which one do I tell?
Yeah.
There was nothing extreme that happened. There was moments where okay, we shouldn't do that again, or we should back that off a couple of knots. But the canyon flying was pretty wild. We had some canyons that we just flew over and over and over again. The Pacific Northwest, the Cascade Mountain Range, that was wild. But I don't think there was anything in particular. It was a really hard shot to get. I'll kind of give you one really cool example for people that know the movie really well. Tom does this thing where Rooster's out of, flares. And he deploys countermeasure to kind of save Rooster. And he does a Cobra. F-18s don't do Cobras. But they squat really good if you're not going really fast. And that's kind of how we would cheat it. And there was this shot that Joe wanted where he wanted an F-18 to kind of straight on wanted to squat in front of you. And you're like, yeah, super cool, but we're going to die because it'll come right at us. That sounds great. So we're like, all right, well, if we just laterally separate a little bit, we'll start, we'll crawl, walk, run. We'll see what it does. And as it, passes us, we'll just walk it in every time. Of course, in the Pacific Mountain Range, gorgeous terrain, huge mountains. You want to be as low as you can for the cool background. The higher you are, the more boring it gets. And I'm trying to remember who was flying. He's going to probably listen to this and be like, damn it, Kevin. But he was awesome. But we did that very thing. I'm in the Phenom 300. We'd get really slow enough where the 18 wouldn't have a high AOA, but it was slow enough to kind of dig in. And we started doing these things. And of course, I would pop with him and the thing would decel and go by off my right side, and we'd walk it in. And on the last one of those, which is the shot that's in the movie, was one of those takes where that airplane gets huge and comes right at us and goes by. And we're like, okay, we got that. We definitely should move on. That one's going to be in the movie. But it was epic. It was pretty cool. It's wild to see an airplane of that size just kind of sit on its tail. And then when you're in another jet, it feels like it's backing up right at you.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing the control authority those aircraft have.
Were there any cameras externally on the Hornets? I know they had the big IMAX in the back seat, but did the Hornets have like set cameras, and were you part of that, or was that a separate
It was a separate team. I was part of helping the creative team, Joe and everybody, and Claudio figure out where they would look good. But we had incredible mounts. We had a tailhook mount that looked aft. We had a dorsal fin mount. We had the one, looking aft right behind the dorsal. You see the verticals. So for chase sequences, we had underwing all the weapon stations we can fit into mounts. And we could angle them around. We can angle them at the cockpit. We had mounts all over the F-18s, and they had to go to the East Coast.
Probably.
Yeah, they went to Navarre. They had to get built. They had to get tested. That was
Were they carded? Could you punch them off and lose $1 million worth of cameras? And
the ones on the weapon station, I'm sure, could be punched off. All the other stuff, those were like bolted to the airframe.
Yeah.
you're like, no, don't do it.
It was pretty wild. All the cameras held on all the aircraft. Actually, take that back. We lost a GoPro, which was the behind the scenes guy, put one on the wingtip of the L-39. And we lost that somewhere. We came back and there was just safety wire on the wing. I'm like, one day some hiker's going to find that.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is incredible.
All the footage.
The best shot was probably recorded by that GoPro, man.
Probably we were doing some pretty fun stuff that day. We were hoping it would have stayed on board.
Did you? Sorry, Goody, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, did you? How much flying around real boats did you do, or any of that? I mean, I know the boat stuff is a little bit not shown as much, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I went to the boat twice. It was the TR, the USS Theodore Roosevelt.
Yep.
Is that CVN 72? I think. Sound right?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Sure. 7 something.
Yeah, exactly. And the first time we went out, the weather wasn't awesome, but that's where we got some good 18 footage around the boat, and we got the E2 Hawkeyes when we shot that. So that's the Overwatch sequence. That was very early on in shooting. When we went back to the boat, that's the one where we needed to do MABS POV. So I had to go down to San Diego and brief with the flags and the skipper of the boat, and I didn't know how that was going to go. We've never taken a civilian jet. This is a civilian business jet that's modified, a Phenom 300. And he's like, well, what do you want? And it's like, well, we want to get as close as we can get to the boat, that you feel comfortable with. And after that conversation, they cleared us down to 10 feet. And I was like, oh, I can't believe that, right? Like, that's pretty wild. But they wanted to build into it. And we were really afraid, I guess cautious.
Wow.
When we first got to the boat. We had to do these bow flyby sequences where I was kind of coming across the bow. So starboard to port, and it was MABS flyby in the F-14 or whatever it was for the end of the movie there. And the first pass I did, I was just trying to be nice, like respectful as a civilian ripping around a boat, and they're in between cyclic operations, and they cleared us, and I came through, and I thought I was kind of respectably high enough and what still looked pretty good. And the skipper came on we had a UHF radio, it was modified. And he said, hey, that looked pretty good, guys, but you sure seemed a little high. And then Ferg, who was sitting behind me, was like, dude, you can do whatever you want now. That was the side for a let her rip. So we started pouring it on and having some fun. And the boat was great. They were great. I think I shot 11 passes. And I think the final 2 were about 10 to 20 feet wave offs. And I knew when the last one was. We got it on the 10th one, and the 11th one, I don't know, maybe it was more for fun. But I'm like, man, if I just we go into the burble and I just pull the power back a little bit, I could maybe just touch, and log.
So wake up. So no kidding, you in a Phenom 300, you were doing approaches.
Yeah, full on approaches.
Really?
Now, Be that said, this is daylight, calm seas, no pitching decks.
No.
Storms,
But still, I mean, you like roll out in the groove. You were in the groove behind the boat.
In the
Did
groove.
you
Also
see the lens, paddles contact.
Watching the lens, talking to paddles, and then you calling our wave offs. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Oh, dude, footage would be awesome.
I mean, it's on my Instagram. It's online everywhere. There's a lot of behind the scenes. There's Ferg. We made like a little makeshift seat between me and the safety pilot and the Phenom. And, he's got some cool iPhone video of that, which is kind of fun.
That is rad.
Wow.
And you said you came down to like a 20-foot wave off?
Yeah. I mean, my rat out would call 100 feet off the water just before I got to the boat. Yeah. And we're wave 60. We're probably about 10, 20 feet. 10 was our min alt, because they didn't want us any lower than that. So we were trying to get all the way in there.
I'd count it.
That is awesome.
Pretty cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I didn't know you were doing actually kind of in the case one pattern there.
Yeah, well, it was really important for Joe. He wanted to show the audience what MAB's POV looked like, right? And coming in the F-14, like IMAX quality cameras, like how do we show at an F-18 speed this MAB's point of view? And the way we did that was the camera on the front of the Phenom, just same speed as an F-18 on approach in there. And, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow.
That is rad. I had no idea, man.
So was it after you did Devotion? Because the aerial cinematography was pretty damn good too. I mean, it's a good movie.
The old L-39 wasn't having to work too hard with those subject aircraft.
With the Corsair.
Yeah. It was after. We got a call from JD Dillard, good friend of mine, the director of that movie, and Black Label Media. And what's interesting is there's really cool aerials that just didn't make the cut, didn't make the movie, didn't fit in the timeline. I wish they would just make another version of that movie that was like 2 hours of the aerial content, because we had real MiG-15s operating in the wintertime in the Pacific Mountain, or the Cascade Mountain Range once again, but this time with like 70 and 80-year-old aircraft, so a little bit more challenging. We had real Corsairs, real Sky Raiders. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Real Bearcats. I think that's one of the first big feature films Bearcats have ever been on screen for. So that was cool.
How many real Corsairs were there?
We had 4. And that part was really fun. So as the aerial coordinator for that movie, I was given a lot of freedom. I wanted to make the aircraft as accurate as possible. So we basically brought in a painter to paint all these aircraft with movie paint and weather them so that they look like fleet airplanes. They needed to look like they weren't shiny $4 million museum aircraft. These needed to look like operational fleet aircraft in the Navy. So we had to dirty them up and make them look a little weathered and make them look like they were getting used a little bit. And that's what we did. We made all the bureau numbers correct. We made all the, we had different dash numbers. It's hard to get all the same dash numbers. I think they used dash 4s and dash 5s in the Korean War. I had 2 dash 1s. So the plane experts that watch the movie can look at it and be like, hey, the exhaust stack's in the wrong place there. But, Joe, we always say Joe the plumber, I'm sure he liked it. But
was Dave cool. Folk one of them?
No, I don't recognize that name.
No. Yeah, I flew with a Corsair in an air show in St. Louis, and Dave Folk, he owned the airplane and he flew it. And the Corsair it's a massive airplane.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's such a cool airplane.
It's got some serious ramp presence to it with that R2800 when that thing's running. It's so awesome.
Although I think he told me, and I don't know, maybe the Corsairs you use, but he said like they'd replace the engine with like a DC-6 engine or because the original motor wasn't.
I think most of the guys do that. I think there's a lot of little mods that the Warbird guys do to make those motors run a little bit more efficiently and reliably.
Yeah.
They built like a mock-up carrier for that movie, right? Didn't they? Like up on the ground somewhere?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. We're in, we started in the Cascade Mountain Range for all the cool aerials. And then we went over to Georgia, Statesboro. Cool little airport. If you ever go there, that's where the aircraft carrier was. We shut down a runway. We had to note them out the runway. And we built a full-length tarmac. And then we built the superstructure, like the island. And there, the tower was up there and all the railings and everything and all the hatches. And the coolest thing is it would get foggy sometimes at nighttime and you'd be out on this runway. And with all the lights on the island and everything and on the deck, you felt like you were at sea or something. You're like, I can't believe I'm in an airport. It was a lot of fun. And we were running the Corsairs on that thing and just having a great time.
Yeah. Was Glenn Powell? I mean, so now you've just talked about 3 different films, features where Glenn Powell's involved. Was it Top Gun Maverick that got the inspiration for him to want to do Devotion, which did the IMAX, or like how did your involvement with him? Is he like the next Tom Cruise now because he's getting in the military aviation?
I sure hope so. What a good guy, man. Glenn is just a true all-American good person. He loves aviation, as you can tell, and I think his love for aviation's kind of maybe sparked a lot of his roles in these films as well. But no, I think it happened by chance. He's such a good job on Maverick, and I think he got pulled in by Black Label, and then it just made sense to make him part of the Blue Angel thing. He was an executive producer helping put that together on the Blue Angel. Yeah, but Glenn's great. It's kind of funny. We keep doing aviation movies together. Love it.
Do you have any like creative, like, are you thinking at this point, are you strictly aviation, or you're like, hey, I can produce, maybe the next Airwolf or whatever?
I know that's our show. We're all going to produce that. That's our future project. I love aerial coordinating. I can see myself probably doing more like maybe even second unit directing, but second unit splinters like Devotion. Like I had a splinter unit up in the Pacific Northwest for a month where we were doing all the aerials for the movie. That's the stuff I could see myself being more of a director on, but also still flying. I don't want to hang up flying. Like the desk stuff's cool, but getting out there and actually putting the airplanes in the air and coordinating that and filming them or flying them, that's like my passion. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. By chance, does your dad ever come along on occasion?
Yeah, absolutely. I forced him out of retirement and bring him out, and he worked on Maverick a little bit with me. So awesome. I talked about all those different pods we would have on Maverick. There were times where I need to go fly the L-39, and I also needed a helicopter unit. And I called Dad and be like, hey, I need you to grab the A-Star and go coordinate these 2 F-18s to go do this. So that was awesome. It's like having an extension of me, the guy that taught me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
We get him out there in the field and make him work, but he loves it.
What is your, I mean, it's kind of changing gears a little bit, but I talk about make them tell you no, and just careers, but mostly military, but somebody watching this that says, hey, that sounds awesome, I want to be like you. Like, how does somebody get to flying in Hollywood? And then the second part of that is, do you think drones are now going to start taking a bigger part as we go forward?
I do. That's why we started a drone company. 100%. No, it's to answer your question, for the people who want to get in this, I had to think about it a little bit because it's kind of an unfair advantage, and I got to be fair. Is I had a family route in, right? So I had a little bit of an advantage there. But if I remove that and I try to think about well, what if I didn't have a dad that was in the business? How in the world would I have broken into this? You kind of use the same format. If you have to go find the folks that are doing it and see how you could learn, just like any profession. Go wash windshields, tow airplanes, clean airplanes, and then build a trust to be a bigger part of an operation where you start learning it. That's a great way to get involved in anything. And that's probably what I would have fought for, I guess, if I wanted to be in the industry and I had my dad. The other thing too is I say the word, immerse yourself into it, know what you want to do and build a little roadmap. For me, after my dad gave me that advice, my roadmap was keep flying jets as much as I can, keep flying helicopters, fly as many airplanes as I could, because I knew where I wanted to go with that. So it was get as many hours, make mistakes, learn, and at the same time, keep my foot in that door, talking to those people that I want to work with, because that's where I want to go. That's the best advice I can give to somebody. Go find someone who's doing it. Go see if you can help them, be a part of the team. Go get dirty, get your hands dirty, And
I think, Kevin, that's probably a recipe for success in a lot of different things in life, that people can get into.
Yeah. I agree.
It seems to be common with aviation, just in general, all cut from the same cloth.
Exactly. And then the drone question, I've actually been doing drones a long time. I grew up flying RC model airplanes and jets and helicopters, and we were an aviation family, so we loved RC stuff. And then when those things became drones and became real, I'm like, man, I can fly this little RC helicopter. Why can't I fly a drone on set? We already do full size stuff. That seems like it'd be a natural progression. So started doing drone stuff very, very early. I don't really do much of it anymore. My true love is just being in the aircraft, but we got great drone guys that are part of our company that fly for us. And the way I always say to people, they're like, well, is it going to kill the helicopter industry? Is it going to start overlapping? The answer is yes. It may not kill it fully, but it's going to continue to overlap. As technology advances, we're seeing that, these two circles start overlapping more and more as drones capabilities are getting really good. But I'm still seeing producers use drones where it should be a helicopter, and I'm seeing helicopters used sometimes where it should be a drone. It's not a perfect science, and sometimes it's budgetarily driven. What I try to do with X-Brand, our company, I mean, we get the creative, and we're like, look, we're gonna give you the right platform. We'll just tell you like it is. If it's a jet, it's a jet. It's a helicopter or drone, whatever it is, we're going to give you the right tool to help you tell that story, because they're all very, very useful and they all do different things.
Well, you bring up a good point with just the way things seem to be going up to Top Gun Maverick. I know there's VFX in Top Gun Maverick and Devotion, but it seems like now we're getting back to real airplanes, where for a while it seemed like Hollywood was like, no, we can budget it out. Do you think this trend is going to continue and we'll keep getting real airplanes to make it look cooler?
Yeah, it will continue. And Maverick was the tip of the spear on that, right? We broke the trend. I agree with you. There was a lot of CGI, everything going on, and we started watching cartoons, if you will. Like guys like us, we can tell that that's not how an aircraft can move, or a missile, or a fighter. And it just, sure, it's cool, it's visual, there's a lot going on, but that's not really happening. Well, when Maverick, did we call it Tom Cruise rule number 1. There always has to be something in lens, an aircraft in lens. You can reskin it, but it always has to be something. And when you watch Top Gun Maverick, it means something, right? When we watch an aircraft maneuver, yeah, there's some CGI in there, but for the most part, there's real pilots and real aircraft maneuvering on camera in lens, and it looks freaking awesome. And I think that's when we got hired for Devotion. To answer your question, I'll just answer it with what Devotion said. The producers are like, Maverick's amazing. We want to make this Korean War movie, and we want it all to be real. That was it, right? And wow. Light bulb, okay, people like this, so this is really neat, and that's what we did. They could have done, think of Midway. Yeah. Not to harp on Midway too much, there wasn't a real airplane in that movie, and you're watching a cartoon. Yeah. Devotion is almost all real aircraft, and the aerial sequences look really cool. So I think the trend will keep going. Awesome. There's some other really big aviation movies I can't talk about that are probably a year out or so. Good. They are speaking the same language. They want it all real.
That's awesome. Is insurance hard to get? I mean, you talked about Tom Cruise, but is it because of the way the market is it like, oh, you want real airplanes? It's an extra $40 million.
No, I think I just came from an aviation insurance talk with a bunch of the underwriters and everything. Aviation's inherently risky. That's why we have insurance companies. That's why they make money. It's why we have underwriters and brokers. The motion picture flying is really controlled. There's I guess if you look at NATOPS and naval operations and stuff, a lot of it's written in blood. And unfortunately, with the movie industry, I have what's called a movie manual issued from the FAA. It's like my Bible of how we do what we do. That's written in blood too. And we study and we know the accidents that have occurred over the years and why they've occurred. And we have ways to make sure they don't happen again, as long as we're doing the right stuff. So, I think there's some misunderstanding about the movie industry, Yahoo's stunt pilots, ripping low level, crazy stuff, but it's so highly regulated, and it actually is really methodical, the stuff we do.
Yeah. You sound like the Blue Angel skipper. Like it sounds like a 1-for-1 from the IMAX. Where seriously. Probably by design, but he's explaining how the Blue Angels start what to them is far away, and they narrow it down, and their focus is always safety, so that they don't end up with another mishap or something that makes the entire program go away. So I completely understand what you're talking about with a safety mindset.
Yeah, thanks, Mover. Ferg used to say something really cool every brief. And, in the beginning, I didn't know why he said it, because we go through these 2-hour-long briefs, and Tom, all the actors in the room, and Ferg was the last one to top off, and he would do ORM and some NATOP stuff, and some SAR stuff. And the last thing he would say before we all broke out of there was, if there's doubt, there's no doubt. That was it. And it's so simple, right? Like, if there's any doubt that we can't go out there and come home, we're not going to do it. We're going to do something else. And I use that every time we're working on a movie or TV show or something. At the end of the day, I always say we're making pretty pictures. We're not getting shot at. We're not saving lives. We're making pretty pictures. There's no excuse for us to get hurt or not be able to go home to our families. So we always kind of try to remind ourselves it's really easy to get caught up in like a natural progression or build up of something. And you have to know where the limit is. Just when you start getting the tingly feeling or hair standing up in the back of your neck, you got to remember we're making a movie and it's going to look amazing. And you got to back off that limit just a little bit and live there.
Do you guys use like knock it off and terminate like the Air Force and Navy?
Oh,
Is that like
absolutely.
over the radio and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We use knock it off for anything, and system degrades and flying win and book readers. And here's the thing, like from my short time of working DoD projects, even before Top Gun Maverick, I feel like every time I work with an organization, if they have something really good, I borrow that. I take that, right? And I move it into my own organization. Yeah. And the Navy and the Air Force has been doing this for a long time. They kind of know what they're doing. So when we work with them, I hear a lot of things, I see a lot of procedures, and I'm like, I'm stealing that. That's great.
Just don't steal too much.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that is not going to help you. It's going to make things a lot harder. Don't kind
of take the good stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have as many checklists.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't want to say too much. Sorry, go ahead, Gonky.
I was just gonna say, Kevin, I mean, that says a lot about, who you are as a pilot. You're able to humble yourself enough to realize, like, I need to set limits, to be able to take from different organizations and then put that in your tool bag, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And for anyone listening, my dad's giving me some great advice. One other little piece I'll share with you guys, maybe it'll help a young aviator that's listening. But when he told me, to go do my own thing and figure it out basically and come back when I was ready, one of the jobs I eventually got into was like Part 135 charter, like jet charter. And that was specifically just to build jet hours, because as a civilian, you're not going to get it unless you do airline or charter. It's really the only way to build jet hours. And he's like, listen, you're going to fly with a lot of different people. And when you become a captain, you're going to fly with a lot of different co-pilots. And your job is to look at the way everybody flies. Don't just look at the way you fly. Watch everybody. And you don't have to critique anybody. You don't tell them how to do their job. You just watch and learn. And you're going to see things that you don't like that they do. And then that's what you don't do. And you're going to see things that you like. And you're going to make that part of your own airmanship, your own way that you operate. And I love that advice. And that's what we should always do as aviators. Remember, the whole thing is we're not supposed to ever be done learning.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah, we gotta humble ourselves, check our egos, know that we're just as susceptible to screw up or mess up, and just kind of keep ourselves on par.
Yeah, I'd fly with you.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we don't want to take
podcast and you're in.
Yeah. I'm in. Not that I was invited, but we've got a couple questions from the audience.
Let's
before
do it.
we'll let you go. We just want to see. AppGeek Joe says, Kevin, can you please take footage of the Pacific Air Show with the A-10's last demo? I love Top Gun Maverick. Best movie ever.
Totally agree with that last sentence. The Pacific Air Show is Huntington Beach, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, he actually asked that question. He goes, where's the Pacific Air Show F-35 Bayo video you got?
Yeah, so I was actually, funny enough, I was on a movie, and that was a great example of me calling my dad and saying, hey, I need you to cover me, because we went out and shot the Pacific Air Show this last year. And Nick came away with really cool stuff with everybody, with Bayo and even the Thunderbirds. And we haven't been asked back yet, but we just started talking to those same folks, and they said that people were just kind of drooling over the air-to-air footage, and they got to do it again. And it's super fun because we can't go into the demos, but we get real close to the box, and we bring a big camera lens on the helicopter. So I think chances are really high that we'll shoot it again. I hope the people that organize this are hearing this, if people want to do it. And yes, I think we should absolutely shoot the A-10. That's one of my favorite airplanes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Gonky, you and I talked about this because Gonky went to IMAX and calls me up and he's like, dude, it looked like what it used to look like for us. And I think that's the most important statement, is that when you're doing air-to-air shots, you're giving the public what we see. Yeah.
Some of the shots, I was like, that's awesome.
Yep.
I've been there.
Yes. And it's cool. I mean, a lot of the fighter pilots and guys that saw the movie told us that. They're like, dude, this gets me excited. When I see all that stuff, I just get that feeling, even if they're retired or whatever. So that's cool.
Yoga pants and jets. Janitor's back says the Blue Angel high-speed stuff was great, but the high alpha pass shot was just beautiful.
The high alpha was my favorite shot. That was so fun. We did that up at San Francisco. We did it at Pensacola. So here's the cool thing about it. That's not their max high alpha. So a lot of you probably know this. There's a safety factor built in it, and it's a single engine safety factor. So if they popped a motor, it gives them the ability to push over and still recover at that altitude. But the 18 is capable of a bigger AOA, but they're not allowed to do it, which is really weird because the Thunderbirds only have one engine and they have a huge AOA. So I don't really understand the logic with that. But what's cool is they have about 120 knot ground speed, I think, on average. Now, my max airspeed with the helicopter was 115 knots. That's a restriction on that giant camera on the front of it. So any way I look at it, there's going to be an overtake. So I would use altitude. I would trade altitude for energy. I'd go diving into them so they would set it. And once I saw that they were set, I'd go diving out of the sky to get to 115. And I would try to get to like a 3/4 on them without getting in front of them. And as I got to 3/4, they would just pick up this really slow 5 to 10 knot overtake. And then I would drive in right behind them, which was cool. And for us watching it, it gave you this parallax. You're like, dude, how are we this close to this like formation right now? That was the goal. The scary part was, I think it's when they split, one jet just powers straight up and the other one kicks it in full burner. And that's a huge, jet wash that's like aimed right at the helicopter. So trying to time my path behind the helicopter and miss that big kickover full blower in our face was always exciting. But the shot turned out pretty cool. I'm glad you liked that.
Was it parallax when you're doing the stuff? Because I saw this on like Twitter, the behind the scenes of over the Blue Angels taxiing, or were you like rotor wash? Was that really like a throwing FOD into the engines and stuff?
It's a good question. So we won't throw anything into the engines from behind. Like there's enough jet wash coming out of those things to, and the taxiways are pretty clean. The horizontal stabs on those airplanes probably felt a small gust at max. And that was briefed. We talked about it. They're like, dude, that's nothing. The 18s aren't going to care. We taxi in high wind. So if they felt anything, it was light. Would I have ever done that around the front of them, which I did, but I had a lot more standoff. I would have been a lot more careful because now we can throw FOD into an intake or something like that. So that was a pretty coordinated shot where we just came around the back of the jets and we wanted this huge parallax, like putting people like literally right next to those things as they're taxiing, which nobody's ever been before. That was the goal.
Awesome. Angie says this is super specific. Was it
Wow.
all done on shot over systems, or did you have to integrate camera drones into the workflow? Oh,
Angie must be in the industry. There's no way she can know that. That's pretty cool. Good job, Angie. That was done using our shot over K1, which is the large system. Same thing we used on Devotion and Top Gun Maverick. It's a giant system that weighs like 250 pounds, hangs out on the nose of the helicopter. We have to add weight and counterbalance it. But we can put huge systems in there. So the gimbal, just for those people listening, it's an empty carbon fiber shell that costs like $500,000. It's super fancy, can stabilize anything, but it's empty on the inside. It's an open platform system. So now you can put any camera, any lens. You can put film cameras in there, IMAX quality cameras, big 12:1 zoom lenses. So it can take just about anything. So to Angie's point, it was a shot over K1 for all the shots that were from the helicopter.
Wow.
Very impressive.
This one's a little bit less technical. Ghetto Streamlabs, because you can say it right by his username. Because this is a great episode. My dad flew Airwolf, maybe the coolest thing I've ever heard someone say. And I agree.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Like, that was the shock of this whole thing.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I perked up immediately.
So I'll give you a funny Airwolf story, and a little known to the general public. Airwolf got so popular, it started going to air shows. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yeah.
And my dad would fly to air shows. In the show, when you see like Santini in the back of this thing, it's like decked out with monitors and everything. It's a sound stage. That's not the back of the 222. It was just like empty back there. My mom, I was like a newborn. My mom would go with my dad to air shows. So there'd literally be like a pack and play and baby toys in the back. And my dad's like, oh, I can't like show up with this crowd in Airwolf and then have, my mom get out holding a baby and stuff. So he would show up and he would do like cool flyby and the crowd would all gather and go crazy. And then he would rip over to another part of the airport, like an FBO, and kick my mom and I out and then go over and show up with Airwolf and do his thing. So Kind of funny.
Do you remember the slalom scene with Airwolf where it demonstrates its thing?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried that? I mean, that with a helicopter that big, it just looks like the most awesome flying. Now that I know, oh God, that's pretty cool. I mean,
that does look super fun. No, I've never done a slalom. No, it looks pretty cool though.
Would that kind of stuff be allowed today? I mean, the stuff that they did back in Airwolf, or has the industry changed?
I'm doing a movie right now. I can talk about it because I think the world knows it's being made, but a Formula One movie with Brad Pitt. And I was over at the Daytona International Speedway, and I was cleared to fly at mid altitude around the track to get these shots of the cars. So I'm like, I don't know if you know, the track has like a 33-degree angle or something like that. And I'm like 115 knots in the A-Star, in the corner, right above cars. So stuff still happens like that. I mean, we do weird stuff in this industry, and it's all done with FAA oversight and in compliance with our movie manuals. But yeah, it could be done. If it was needed to be done, I'm sure we'd figure out a way.
Robert says, where'd you get the hind? Did you have a hind?
Awesome question.
In the movie. Yeah, that's right. There is the hind that immediately goes after Tom.
That's right. Yeah.
Robert, you'll love this. No one's actually asked that. I don't think that I can remember. So awesome question. I was the hind. We talked about minimal CG. We did CG enhancement. Tom Cruise's rule number 1 has to be an aircraft in frame. We can never fake an aircraft with blank sky and CG put it in. So originally I had a Blackhawk, one of our Blackhawks, scheduled to be in the movie because it's sort of a similar size, similar downwash. Due to budgetary constraints for that portion of the movie, they're like, well, we're going to CG it anyway. Can we just use our camera A-Star that I'm flying? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we ended up flying that sequence. That was up in Tahoe, California, and in the snow. And that was our camera helicopter with the giant gimbal on the front of it. And for those sequences, I was a picture ship. I was flying as the hind, and I was trying to replicate the look and size of that helicopter by trying to fly this A-Star just a little differently, bigger flares and, a bit slower, bigger turns. When he turned and gunned at Maverick, that was me in the camera A-Star. And of course, with the A-Star, I could rip it over to him. But in my head, I'm like, okay, big hind, here we go, lumbering around. So that was amazing. Literally me flying an Airbus H-125.
That's awesome.
Casey says, was it Luke when the helijet were filming the F-35s for the Transformers movie? So crazy seeing the heli flying backwards so low around the flight line. Seeing most of the footage didn't make the movie.
It is. So at Luke, I didn't fly the helicopter, but I flew the jet on Transformers, which was my older jet, the Lear 25B, with what's called a vector vision camera system. And I think I had 5 F-35s for Transformers. We took some 16s out for that movie too, but I was based out of Luke for the actually, it was based next door at a civilian airport, and we'd come over and do an in-air pickup. And
Goodyear?
Yeah, it was Goodyear.
Yeah.
By the way, the loudest jet ever, that F-35, it just rattles you. If you're in formation with them, and of course we always want the camera close to the can, and they light the burner on that thing, you're just it doesn't matter what's on your head, you're rattled. It's wild.
Yeah.
So obviously, and this could be anything, what are your favorite flying movies that you've made or that you've just watched?
Crazy C-130, cool airplane. I have an SIC type rating in 130s.
Oh, come on, dude.
I know. Well, we have one we use for the movie industry. It's on the old A model, 1964. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's you guys will laugh at me, but and I'm biased. I love Maverick, but honestly, the flying sequences in Devotion that didn't make the movie, Devotion had some incredible stuff. I mean, there was one time I was chasing the Corsair down Snake River, and we were 20 feet above the water, and that thing's fully loaded with rockets, and we were just doing wild stuff in Devotion. And it's hard to show that on the screen what that really looked like. So I think in my head, Devotion, not what came out in the movie, but the flying that's behind the scenes was so awesome.
They spent way too much time on the story and should have put all this flying stuff in there.
Yeah, people want to see a lot of flying.
Give the people what they want.
Yep.
Do you fly for funsies?
I do. I had to buy an airplane that I could fly for funsies. I bought a little Super Decathlon. That's nice. My therapeutic, put the bows on, listen to music, go out in the aerobatic box and go rip around a little bit. So I love that little thing, man. You push it out of the hangar with one hand and crank it up and you're in the air in 5 minutes. And that's my little airplane.
That's awesome.
Did you film a B2, and what challenges did you have filming the B2?
Yeah, the B2 was hard. Yeah. So I think I filmed just about every airplane in the inventory, DoD inventory. The B2 was cool because the Northrop wanted new footage of it. And I guess the Air Force did too. And they sent me to Whiteman Air Force Base, and I had to go through security clearance, but I also had to go through some special training. And I don't know if the military gets this training too. Maybe I was just a civilian. They're like, I don't trust this guy. We're going to make sure he doesn't hit it. But it's your tendency is when you're informed with the B2, if you're on the level plane with the airplane, is you keep sucking into it because it looks very small if you're at the 3 or 9 line. And then as the airplane like rolls up in a turn, you're just like, oh my God, this thing's freaking massive, right? And there's no vertical surface, and we use vertical surfaces to help us with depth perception as pilots. So the strangest formation, and they were absolutely right. When you're next to that thing, there's not a lot of vertical separation or reference for depth perception when you're next to it. Now, when you're above it and moving around it, not such a big deal. The other fun part about that shoot, and getting a B2, by the way, and going onto like the Utah Test and Missile Range, the Uter, was really cool, and doing low level runs, and that was kind of a dream come true, chasing a B2. But the fun part about it is I had an armed guard sitting behind me, and his job was to make sure we didn't take any videos like with our phones, because there's sensitive things on the airplane, which I thought was ironic because we were there to take videos of the whole airplane. And he was armed. So I was kind of like, and he's not a pilot. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do, if you have to do something? So I didn't understand how that worked, but I thought it was kind of fun. And then we landed, and before we can unlock the door of the Learjet, he had to grab the cards from the cameras, and he put them in this little locked container and locked it up and said, thank you, gentlemen. And he got out of the airplane and left. And then it goes and gets scrubbed and deleted. And, there's certain things we couldn't look at it. We did, but they were going to scrub through it. So love the question. Those were my fun parts of shooting the B2 bomber.
Kevin, what did you chase it with?
I was in the Lear 25, the 25B, a super fun airplane.
Probably just some senior airman that's like, I'm going to get a ride.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm here for your safety. Don't worry. This is totally legit. All right, last two, because I know you got to run.
You guys are fine.
Wanted to say, saw the Blue Angels this weekend, watched the documentary right after. It's incredible what those guys do up there, and also the IMAX stuff. And Garrett says, how was filming at Silverstone? I was at the race and saw the filming during free practice. Did you have any F1 knowledge before going into filming?
So sadly, I didn't actually film at Silverstone. It was a colleague that was UK based. I went to Silverstone. I was going to fly it. It's really difficult to get your pilot's license in the UK, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. I ended up getting my pilot's license, but it was quite delayed. So I lost the opportunity to shoot at Silverstone. They used a local guy, and I heard it went really well. I ended up shooting the F1 movie in Miami, and I got one more. Not Miami, Daytona International Speedway. I got one more iteration to do with them. But did I have F1 knowledge? I didn't. I knew what F1 was. I thought Formula One was super cool, but I didn't follow it. I wasn't an avid follower. Once I started integrating onto the movie and seeing how the teams worked and, essentially crew chiefs, there's actually a lot of similarities between aviation and how those guys run those cars. So I'm much more involved in it now. And I did film I guess the Formula One race in Las Vegas, the first Formula One. I was the Formula One live broadcast helicopter, which simultaneously was getting footage for the movie. And that was really fun. So got to do the first race in Vegas.
So what we need you to do, or I need you to do, get on the horn with Tom, Mr. Cruz. We need Days of Thunder. Cole.
Yeah, we do.
We need a Days of Thunder.
Yeah, we do.
Not Formula. We need Days of Thunder.
I agree 100%.
So, Airwolf and Days of Thunder. Let's make it happen. I will go fund me as appropriate. Hey, real quick question. Did you have to do was there a civilian fast checkout for any of this stuff for formation flying? Did you have to get a formation card for any of that?
No, I don't have a formation card. I guess I was taught when I took over the Learjet program, the camera Learjet program. One of my mentors was Thomas McMurtry. He's a very well-known naval aviator, became a naval test pilot, became an experimental test pilot, went on with NASA, flew everything at NASA, and then even flew with the CIA. Some really cool airframes at the CIA. And that was my mentor. So he was just humble, quiet, a gentleman, like a true American. And I think he was a point in his life where this quiet, humble gentleman decided, his years are probably limited. And I happened to just maybe be the only idiot that was there at the time where he can start teaching. And he started just teaching me stuff. And every once in a while he would tell me this story about, flying the F-104 or F-105 or, the SR-71 or U-2 or something crazy. And I got to fly with him in this Lear. And at first I was just his co-pilot, just glad to be there, co-pilot, learning everything I could. We did night formation. We did IMC formation with the military because this is his life. He's done this his whole entire career. Yep. So I was the civilian that just happened to be in the right place at the right time, eyes wide open, scared to death, learning everything from him. And then I took the program over and he kind of became my co-pilot as he trained me. Did a lot of DOD stuff because we did all the DOD stock inventory footage, a lot of movie flying, all the Transformer stuff, Iron Mans and Avengers, and did that all with Tom. And eventually he retired and I took the program over when I was 25. And that's how I got all my background of doing stuff that normally a civilian should never do, never try to do. 25, and it just kind of became kind of the civilian movie jet guy. And then working on all these different programs, I think I just kind of built a little bit of trust level with the DOD and public affairs offices, and Air Force and the Navy. And I guess it's just a reputation that I got lucky with right now that I'm always thankful for and always trying to make sure, we don't tarnish that. It only takes one thing, slip up somewhere where, that long road, you can just ruin that like that. So,
yep.
Wow. Well, sir, it's been an honor. This has been eye-opening.
Wild,
amazing.
Been fun, guys.
Yeah.
My 5-year-old son had I've never taken him to the theater. He's never been to a movie. And when the Blue Angels IMAX came out, I told my wife, I'm like, his first time at the theater, he's watching the Blues, man. And he loved it. Dude, he's 5-year-old. I mean, he's a little wild man. And that kid sat there with his mouth half open for an hour straight. I'm like, is there something wrong?
That's so cool.
He loved it, man. He had his little Blue Angel fighter jet with him. And I mean, he's drawing like today, he was drawing pictures of the Blue Angel jets. So man, you've influenced my son. I just want to say thank you for putting together, being a part of the team that put together such an awesome production. Cause I loved it. My 5-year-old son loved it. And we were in the first showing of the day and there was just, the place was packed. It was awesome.
That's awesome, dude. That's good to hear. I mean, I do want to say, it takes a small army, right? Like I am literally a part of the puzzle for the creative, the filming team. The guy that's making all that footage happen is Michael Fitzmaurice. It's my business partner and the guy that does all the operating, the brave soul that rides behind me in the L-39 or in the helicopter. I don't know how he doesn't get sick. If you put a monitor in front of me in the back of an aircraft, I'm a goner. And then, all the other people, I mean, we had hundreds of people, but Bridget Top, who was kind of our fearless leader, scheduling and getting all the permissions done with public affairs. So a lot of people, they thank me and that feels really cool. But, I kind of look back on it and I was this one person and all of these people that were at the common goal. And I had a fun job, a cool job at it. But thank you. But huge throwback to all the people that might hear this, even if they don't, that really made that happen.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on our Meager podcast. This has been awesome. And also thank you for the model that's above your head.
You like that? Well, you'll hear you 16 there, but you'll yell at me for the 18 that's up there.
The only one that matters. The only one that matters is in view. It's fine.
This is when we get bored on movie sets, when we're on a movie for a long time, like a weekend, we have down days on weekends, we find hobby stores and we all go buy model airplanes. And we just rip them around at local fields and we crash them. So the ones that are here are the ones that are survived on set.
That is amazing.
That's cool, man. Hey, awesome. Real quick, one more quick shout out to Abe, man. He's the one who connected us. One of my old Hornet students and friends. He lives in Pensacola now.
Abe is awesome. Retired Hornet driver, retired VFC-13 F5 driver. And I just got to say for Abe is the one, like when they finally cleared my government paperwork, when we got to leave that sketchy little town in the middle of nowhere and they said, okay, you can come on base now. We didn't, it was kind of one of those things where none of the squadrons, nobody there was like, what do we do with these L-39s? We had 2 of them in a helicopter and like nobody knew where to put us and it was busy. And Abe was like the coolest dude ever at VFC-13. He's like, hey, we can take everybody, like have them come to BFC 13. We'll give them a house. And that guy housed our L-39s. He housed our helicopter, the Phenom. He made us feel at home. And not only that, like he was the only guy that was like, hey, you're going to be flying around Fallon. I want you to look cool. I don't want you to look stupid. So I'm going to show you all the routing and all the frequencies and, you know, the carrier breaks. So Abe was like the dude behind the scenes that made sure I didn't embarrass myself too bad.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Kevin. That's awesome, man.
If you ever need anything from us, we're here for you.
You know, right.
Mainly advice. We give advice.
Well, if you need anything from us, Airwolf, we're here for you. So
that's good, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well,
awesome
appreciate it so much. Thanks for joining us. We're gonna stay and chat with the audience here. We don't want to take up your and we know you're a busy man, so you're welcome back anytime, by the way.
Yeah, man.
If you want to talk to us again, we appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. And for everyone listening, enjoy the rest of Memorial Day. We'll see you around.
All righty, Kevin. We'll see you, man.
See you guys.
Bye. Wow, dude. Wow. Have we peaked?
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah,
I don't have anything else.
Close it up. We're done.
Look, Luna stayed for the whole thing. She never left. She was here at the beginning and she's here at the end.
Yeah.
That's how awesome it was. That's the
dude. Hey, how about the Airwolf Easter egg? Dude,
I'm without words.
I used to, when I was a kid, I used to ride around an Airwolf. Like, what?
I watched it.
I watched it. I dreamed it. Man. Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, man. I mean, I guess we could talk to. We had some other comments that weren't really appropriate for what we were talking about, but that jeweler guy says, haven't lost a single wingman to action or accidents, have lost 2 to the 22 a day. Reach out to your friends. Don't always know who's struggling.
Yeah,
100%. And then Thomas, $5 for the Luna Wolf Fund.
Thanks, Thomas.
And then great job from Janitor's Back. Dude, do we want to do the articles? I mean, I don't even like.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of blown away, man. I mean, it's like, that really we hit tip of the iceberg with him, right? I mean, he's done work on so many movies, commercials. I mean, you could probably corner him for a couple hours. And
yeah. And the thing is, they're all high quality.
Yeah, and it's so funny, man. Look, kind of just so he's never had formal military training, but like he definitely talks like a military aviator would talk.
When I asked him about the fast stuff, I wasn't asking like, "Hey, are you qualified?" I was curious because, like, on the civilian side, air shows and stuff, they get all these. Oh, we got to have ratings and stuff, and some of the training is very valid. Some of it's just like, okay, well, do we need this? And what I love about what he's doing and kind of how Hollywood kind of takes it is they're not getting bogged down in the minutia. It's like, okay, hey, this works. This doesn't, we can do this. We're still going to do this safely, which I wish from the military perspective, we would get back to that common sense. And
well, I mean, the movie business is in the business of making money, right? So, I mean, they are performance driven, not saying they're money driven, but they're performance driven.
But they're operating within the national airspace system. And so, they still have Uncle Sam looking over their shoulder. So it's cool that the FAA is cooperating with them and that it's still alive today. When he told me that, hey, Airwolf could be made again and not with CGI, you're like, please.
But could it be made with you? That's the actual.
Honestly, I don't care. Like if we just get Airwolf, like I would love to, but if we just get the Airwolf.
Dude, Airwolf, but you brought up a good point, man. Another Days of Thunder. That's my kid. My kid loves that. Race cars, airplanes, fighter jets, man.
Listen, Days of Thunder 2, Glenn Powell, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is the car owner. Glenn Powell is the up and coming race car driver.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm writing it. Call me. I got this script already written.
Kind of like Rocky goes from fighter to trainer.
And if you can get me an advance before Sunday.
How much? What's it going to take? 250, 400?
Oh, dude.
Before Sunday, if anyone's listening, before Sunday.
Look, I'm available until, well, you know what? Even then, Well,
Oh,
I'll leave.
hey, Doug, you listened that whole time, man. I mean, what's your takeaway?
That's I've got a little bit of experience with some airplane movie guys before, and they seem military.
Yeah.
I think they work under so much pressure, and on like you said, there's so much performance involved that I don't want to say it didn't surprise me, because he said a lot of things that surprised me very, very pleasantly, but that's a serious business. It's pretty amazing to get such
She
an awesome
left.
guest on the show too.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah,
interview's
well,
over. She's done.
Luna's like, oh, Kevin's done talking. Just you idiots. I'm out.
Also, I want to point out that all the coolest airplane guys start out in RC.
Mover, did you ever have any RC airplane? You ever do any?
Dude,
RC
I've got a box full of RC wreckage in my attic. I've never successfully flown a single one, but I've tried.
each airplane does one flight.
Yeah.
You're like the admiral in Hot Shots.
Take off. They all land. They all take off again.
I have no multiple flights. I had this like Jetstream RC thing. It was foam and electric.
Yeah.
I never could get that thing flying. Never. I went through so many different props and wings and stuff. And finally, my dad's like, you know what? It's not for you.
Yeah, flying's not for you, Mover. Do something else, kid. Yeah, I did, Doug. I had I can't remember where they were. The one you stand in the middle with the line airplanes, where you make yourself
line,
dizzy.
or you control. They call them
You
both.
making yourself dizzy? I can't imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then of course all the remote control and all the regular plastic models, man. I had a whole aluminum overcast in my freaking bedroom when I was a kid.
Prior to the space shuttle program, there was not a single astronaut who was not a model airplane builder.
Really?
Yep. You can look it up.
Yeah, I guess it starts young. Got to start somewhere.
All right. Do we want to do real world stuff? Are we interested in that tonight? I got 30 minutes. I got one breaking news thing.
What do we got?
Hold on, I'll share it here in a minute. We're so discombobulated. I feel like we're like a bunch of high school girls that are like,
yeah,
oh God,
we're starstruck, dude.
We're fangirling over here.
We're starstruck.
I mean, like, this is the same level as when I interviewed those. I wanted to be like, hey, I interview those guys, because interviewing the dudes that did the first Top Gun was cool. And this is cool too. Because the first guys were Tomcat pilots. A lot of them. Tomcats, F4s, A4s, F5s.
Yeah.
But breaking news this evening, actually, a takeoff was aborted after United Airlines flight reportedly catches fire at Chicago O'Hare.
Yeah.
United Airlines flight 2091 was set to leave Chicago for Seattle around 2 p.m. when takeoff was aborted due to an engine fire. They said the situation was resolved. The 148 passengers exited the plane, so it was towed to the gate. They didn't pop slides, but out of an abundance of caution, fire and medical crews met the aircraft, but no injuries were reported. Airline said it was working to make alternative travel arrangements. Due to the incident, though, it temporarily halted arriving flights at O'Hare on Memorial Day, which was probably a disaster. Thanks, Doug. So that's it. I question the title because, fire. What's the Airbus stuff, Gonky? If you got a fire, do you evacuate?
Depends.
If you pop the bottles, do you evacuate?
Usually have the fire truck come out and see if you are actually on fire, and then of course it's captain's discretion. I mean,
well, yeah,
it depends. Not Boeing.
Right. Yeah, I almost made that joke about, hey, don't be Boeing, but
didn't the picture on the article show a 7.3? I can't
probably
remember.
I didn't remember.
Sent it to me. I'm like, this is
another one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, airplanes abort. I mean, if you told me there was an airliner that aborted every single day, I'd be like, yeah, probably. As many airliners that are flying. And it's good they abort for fire. You don't want to take an airplane that's on fire flying. Makes no sense.
Yeah, and then again, right, engines are running, so they just taxied back. So they didn't say they got towed back.
Yep.
But Wretched Rob says Jan Michael Vincent tried to turn into Archangel with an eye patch cane. Tell me I'm wrong. Oof. Oof, rest in peace, man. That guy had a hard life.
Yeah, dude.
He had a cane because he get his leg amputated or something.
Yeah.
Something for his alcoholism. Something.
Yeah. The last he went south like fast.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
And then the other news, it's less breaking. Ukraine has finally they've got an update. Their pilots have completed training. So they're not going to talk about how many or what, but apparently they're also going to other allies, including France, the UK, and other countries to get further training after this. But they don't have jets yet.
Yeah.
So
they're going to stay in the States and keep flying?
It doesn't say. It just says they've graduated, and it's unclear when the first round will get there. But originally they were saying sometime in June, which I don't know how realistic that is now. But Putin has said that, you know, he's going to go after countries that launch, you know, NATO stuff. But he also says it's not going to make a big difference, so he doesn't care. But good on him. Congratulations to those that graduated.
Yeah. I mean, it's small steps, right? Baby steps. I mean, but if you don't have any airplanes, man, I mean, that's kind of a problem because, you know, you finish a course to sit around on your hands for a while, and that goes for maintainers too.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be able to exercise those skills and then develop your own tactics, employment, all that stuff.
Yeah, and Judy says, are you going to talk about the fatal Spitfire crash, which did happen? I don't have an article for it, but very sad and unfortunate thing.
Was there a picture, video, or just an article?
I don't have anything. Oh,
wow.
Doug is on the case. So
look at that. I
guess he was an active duty guy who was also flying the Spitfire. Yeah. The Typhoon pilot.
Wow.
So he did a Battle of Britain memorial flight.
Wow.
That sucks.
Dude, Spitfire is one of my favorite airplanes, man. Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
Man,
imagine
lose a life in a
imagine that, dude, flying. You're a Typhoon pilot who flies Spitfire on the weekends. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
Something happened. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the investigation will happen. Like there's nothing really we can say until.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we were talking with Kevin, right? I mean, flying's dangerous. I mean, it's just too bad when you lose, you know.
Yeah. I talked about that today on my channel about, you know, we lose pilots and flying fast jets is a dangerous business.
Yeah. Well, dude, even World War II airplanes, man. I mean, they're high performance machines. So,
yeah, you never know. Angie says Mover and Gonky are cool on the regular, but this was just awesome. More of these, please.
We're doing our best, Angie.
Yeah, it's not like we know a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you set this up, Gonky. Now I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on.
I connected in the industry. I know.
I'm kind of connected, you know. I mean,
Angie also says, can't wait to find out what Mover's flying next. Based on the fleet, it's either upgrade to the wide body, switch to the Sky Bus for the A321 XLR, or I don't think it's upgrade to Captain on the 7th.
Man, Angie has.
I can't even say that.
Angie must have like a little intel team here, man. She's on it.
She knows my search history.
She knows. Yes, exactly, dude.
You know, so funnily, we didn't get to the BS part of this where we ask each other what we did for the weekend.
What'd you do this weekend, Mover?
I watched the IMAX thing on Amazon Prime with Blue Angels.
Yeah.
But I also
filmed
a video. I don't know when I'm going to release to announce what my next fatty airplane's going to be. I did a flight cold. Never seen the airplane before.
Single pilot.
I did it before I did any of the iPad training, any of the systems and stuff. I just, you know, cold turkey, jumped in the thing and said, I'm going to go from Miami to New Orleans. And
would that be a realistic flight for this particular airplane?
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say. But I will say,
Angie's like,
it was a disaster. It was a disaster, dude. I'll spoil it. Single pilot now. Forgot a couple things. Didn't turn the IRUs on until I was already like pushed back, and I'm like, oh, what? Nothing's. Oh yeah, you got to turn those on. Oversped the flaps because I just forgot to put them up. Like next thing I know, it's doing deedle deedle deedle. I'm like, oh yeah, well, okay.
That's to remind you put them up.
Yeah, I mean that's why you have an FO. It's 2 people. I was trying to do this by myself, and then get to the field, and it's New Orleans, which I thought was kind of realistic because it slam dunked me. Like the guy. It's been a while since I've done airline flying, but it seems like when you're on the approach, they don't just clear you the approach. They give you like a vector maybe, or tell you to a fix to go to. It's not just,
Won't you get a star? Isn't there a star?
No, there was no star. I was like on nothing, and it's like turn left heading. I was on downwind, I was on a downwind leg, and then it's like cleared the approach. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm at 7,000 feet doing the swoop and hawking thing. Did it go around, oversped the flaps again. Come back around. Now it's like mid fuel, and it's trying to do the exact same thing again. So I'm like, captain's authority, declaring an emergency, come back around, fly and land. And then when I landed, the thrust reversers were mapped backwards. So when I went thrust reverser, it went full throttle.
Dude, that's not good.
So I may wait and show this after I've gotten my type ride so that my check airman doesn't see it.
Oh yeah.
I don't want anybody to be like, oh, I've seen how you fly this thing. We can't.
Just wait, dude.
So I might just wait and release that when I've got like a fresh paper license in hand. Then I'll be like, hey guys, here's what I'm flying. Unless I get an advance between now
and Sunday.
If someone from Hollywood or anywhere really wants to give me some money to not have to go, I'm in. What'd you do this weekend?
I did the family thing, man. I'm up in the Valley Design and Manufacturing, the office here in lovely Ohio. Thank you for letting me use the office, by the way. And just doing the family thing, dude. My wife was sick, my kids were sick. I'm hanging on, man. I'm really hanging on.
It was a struggle. I thought Gonky was going to be on his own today because I called him and I'm like, hey, dude, power's out and the internet's out here. So you might be running this by yourself.
Yeah. Well, me and Doug. Come on, dude. There's 3 of us here, bro.
Gundam Blade said for once Gonky didn't bully a country.
I know. I don't bully countries. I love countries. All of them. Most of them.
Only if they're bigger.
Only if they're smaller than my country.
Don't show it, Boover. You won't get picked for the Airwolf remake. I'll tell you what, man. I got a little bit of hope after I saw the glimmer in his eye. So you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, that would be rad.
I saw
what, dude, I really enjoy the real flying stuff. And for him to say that that's kind of where, they're going, that's what people want. That's exciting to me. Cause I can't remember last time I went to the movie. No, Maverick was the last movie I went to the theater for. Right. And then the next one was
Blue Angels.
Was the Blue Angels IMAX. Cause I'm like, nothing I really want to see. Kind of like he was picking on Midway. Like, I don't want to watch Midway. It's like watching a computer game.
The only thing I will say for Devotion is, and I should ask him about this because he's talking about, real airplanes, what they look like. And I had that interview with the VFX artist and some stuff was like they put stuff, and that's the risk you run. The risk you run with stuff like that is where you take 100% real footage and the VFX guys get a hold of it. And next thing you know, it doesn't look real anymore. And you're like, dude, just stick with it. Don't fix it.
I think that's rad what he did with the Hind.
Yeah. But they're real Hinds. They're real Hinds in the US. He could have just.
Right. But I think it's pretty cool what they were able to do. They just reskinned the A-Star.
Yeah, that is badass. Yeah. Well, now I have to go watch Top Gun Maverick again and the Blue Angel movie.
Yeah. I want to see Maverick again. I want to see Devotion again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've only seen Devotion once, and it was in my mind. I was comparing it to the book. I listened to the book. It came on audio, and I thought the book was amazing,
dude.
thought the film was too.
Are we now moving into the next level? Can we get Hollywood people on? Can we get Thomas Cruise?
I'll see what I can do. I mean,
would you bully him because he's not a big country?
Well, he's not a big country, but I'm pretty sure I'm taller. Does that count?
Oh,
There goes that one. There goes no Tom.
There we go. That one. Well, maybe we'll get Glenn Powell.
Hey, look, dude. Like,
is he tall?
I'm sure Tom Cruise will give you a couple inches, but not switch places with me in life. So let's just. I don't have my own P-51. Let's just say that. I want one.
Gonky.
Sorry, dude.
Bob says, show countdown, mover list stuff, gaming, movies, etc. Gonky, how about gaming, dirt bikes, coloring books, reviews, cyberbullying, nation sizing? He's so in the countdown, which I'm going to change, by the way. I am going to change that now and make it look, I'm going to rip off Casmo.
Yeah.
Because this is awesome, dude. That's like one of the best countdowns ever.
Yeah.
But he's talking about mine that's got my channel trailer that says, here's the stuff I talk about. And which, by the way, it says meme reviews, and I haven't done a meme review since I made that trailer. But the Strike Eagle meme people said I need to do a meme review of them because we're friends again.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mover loves Wizzo memes.
Yeah. Laura, for the Get Rich Before Sunday Fund. Hope it helps.
Dude, thanks, Laura. Dude.
That is hilarious.
397. Yeah.
1,000 left to go.
1,000 million. Yeah, exactly.
No, the best part is probably the people that I will see Monday are like, why are you trying to get out of this?
Oh, dude. You're right.
You know, because that whole
dude, just tell me it's good for clicks.
The Stockholm syndrome is so bad. They're like, what? This is awesome. Why would you not want to be here? What are you talking about?
You needed a sealed box for 4 hours? No clue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Gonky, I think we should just shut her down. Oh,
yeah.
Mental health. We got anything to talk about? Doug, kick it off.
I have no notes.
Standard.
We should have thought of something, dude. I didn't even think about mental health minute. How to?
I don't know, man.
I'm saving it for my book. So,
yeah, I got nothing, dude, for mental health. I'm sorry. I just, yeah.
James Tainton. That's can't be Cajun. She's trying to get Tom Cruise on for an interview. It's like you guys think we can.
Yeah.
I mean, I could try. We're after tonight, unless he's mad at us, unless we said something wrong, we were one step closer.
Very small step.
Yeah.
But yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get what we can get. I mean, Kevin, that's we may have peaked for a while.
Yeah. And that's fine because we're not a interviewing channel.
No.
We'll
throw it in there. We're more of a sit and gab.
Gossip.
Gossip.
We're gossip girls.
Gossip girls.
Gonky's a mean girl.
God. I'm the mean girl, dude.
Gonky's the mean girl.
When you say it like that, it sounds bad.
It is bad. You need to stop. Well, it gets engagement. People, when they're mad, they click.
No.
No. All right. Plexi. Gonky is bullying A-list actors now.
Plexi.
No, you know what? Gonky is bullying the assistant to the second assistant to the regional assistant because it's probably like 8th down the line an assistant is watching this, but not him. It's some like way down the chain that would be watching Gonky bully Mr. Cruz.
Yeah, I just said that because that's what real bullies say about him. I'm more of an echo, right? It's not really coming from me. You buy that Plexi? Probably not.
I mean, like, I got nothing against. I love his movies.
So do I,
Thunder, Top Gun. I really love The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah,
I actually think that's his best movie.
That movie's way underrated.
100%. Emily Blunt.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's done a bunch, man, that I don't think have gotten nearly the fanfare they should.
Yeah, he's
like was it Oblivion?
That's a good
yeah.
movie.
I didn't like
enjoyed that
Oblivion
one.
as much as The Day After Tomorrow, but
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow. Day After Tomorrow is a totally different movie. Edge of Tomorrow. See, that's probably why nobody saw it, because it's too hard to say.
I had a chip on my shoulder about the Reacher movies, and I liked them anyway.
I like the Reacher movies.
Yeah. He's a great entertainer, man. He's one of the great entertainers.
Yeah. Andrew Davies says, rumor has it they stacked 3 ejection seats so Tom Cruise could be seen through the F-14. Why? Why you got to bully 5?
See, that's not coming from me, dude. That's not me.
$5.
But thank you, Andy. Thank you, Andrew.
You got $5 for that.
Thank you.
Quid? It's quid.
Dude,
Pounds?
Are you making fun of the?
No, I watched a thing on Instagram of a little British girl talk about quid and pounds, and that's how I learned. One is like saying $5 and one is like saying $5. And she was really mad about some ice cream, or as she called it, ass cream. She was super pissed.
Okay.
Because the ice cream was too expensive. A cute kid, but just really angry. Mover and Gonky. Hey, check out his Airwolf helmet.
Yep.
That's why you started this, Doug. Mover and Gonky are now 2 degrees of separation from Tom Cruise, but we're also 1 degree of separation from Airwolf.
Yeah, 2 degrees might as well be. It's like in space. If you're like a millimeter away, you might as well be a million miles away.
Okay, here's a question, Gonky. Would you rather meet Tom Cruise or go on a ride in Airwolf?
I'd rather meet Tom Cruise.
What? What?
A ride in Airwolf would be awesome, but I'd rather, and you know what? And maybe that Inter Navy jet helos are repelled by the earth. Like I have this. It was trained into me.
This might also trigger your Navyism. Would you rather a piggyback ride from Tom Cruise or to ride an Airwolf?
I'll ride an Airwolf.
Okay, so we don't know how
the P-51.
No, physically piggyback the man, like on his back.
No, I'm in Airwolf. Right. Let's go. Fire this baby up.
Brian
says, play it all, dude. Diapers, whatever's back there.
First-hand Airwolf stories.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that an Airwolf helmet too? No, that's Formula. I'm sorry. I did bully his Formula One movie, and I apologize for that. I probably shouldn't have done that. But it's Formula One, dude. They're so boring.
Yeah, the cars used to sound cool, then they kind of stopped sounding cool.
Did you watch the Indy 500 yesterday? Probably. This is a stupid question. I know you didn't. The Indy 500 had an amazing finish. Just incredible. Oh, yeah.
I'm going to have to watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. A lot of strategy going on. Thought it was going to be, last second pass, but then it was a second to last second pass. It was just amazing. It was awesome. And then the Coke 600 was disappointing. NASCAR sucked.
Watch Formula One. Got it.
No, this IndyCar.
Or IndyCar, sorry.
IndyCar. Indy 500. Indianapolis 500. So, all right, man. Well, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Street Hawk. Well, there's a blast for the past. I think I watched that. Was it graphic? Did they chop people's heads off inside the helmet?
It
was a motorcycle guy that was like a vigilante.
Yeah, Street.
I feel like I watched that as a kid, and I probably shouldn't have.
I don't remember anything like that. I remember I liked it as a kid, but Street Hawk didn't last as long as like Knight Rider and Airwolf, right?
Right.
And it was a motorcycle dude all in black, right? I mean, with the
well, so Airwolf lasted 3 seasons and then it went to Canada, or 4 seasons and then it went to Canada. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. But Street Hawk, I think I watched, but it didn't. It's not like it's not streaming anywhere.
Yeah, I don't remember much about it other than there was a motorcycle. And being a little kid who loved motorcycles, I liked it. But that's like my recollection of it.
Yeah. Hidden Force says Street Hawk was not graphic, so I must have been watching something I shouldn't have.
Imagine that.
Should Blue Thunder return too?
Why not? Why not?
I don't know.
Is
That's-
that's not
Street
that's
Hawk.
not Street Hawk. Is that Street Hawk?
That's what the
Yeah,
internet says.
he says, dude, Street Hawk was awesome. It wasn't gruesome. Yes, I'm pretty sure my dad was watching something I shouldn't have. And I just remember one of the scenes where the dude gets his head lopped off and the helmet goes rolling down the thing with the head still in it. And I saw this as a child, and I probably shouldn't have.
Probably not.
That's the mental health minute.
Don't watch stuff. Don't watch
your
stuff.
Kids watch super graphic stuff in the 80s.
You cannot unsee this.
Yeah, my mental health minute is, please let me be an Airwolf. It's his dirt track helmet, Brian says. All right, well, that's all I got for tonight. Gonky, we'll let you go home early, because I know it's, what time is it there?
No, I'm East Coast, man. It's 10 o'clock. What is it? 10 o'clock? Yeah. 10:03.
Yeah, it's quite the facility you've got there.
Yeah, it's awesome. High-speed internet, coffee machine. Can't go wrong.
Perfect. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Next week. I'll be in a hotel, dude.
It's all right.
It's going to be awesome.
We know the background.
All right. Bye.
See you guys.